gentlemen, we're going to start. And this is a special meeting. Calexico City Council, Calexico, Redevelopment Successor Agency, Calexico Financing Authority special meeting agenda. Today on Monday, January 28th, 2019. I can't even see that from here. Approximately 5:35, something like that. I can't see it. All right. Let's see here. City Clerk, will you call to order, please?
Mayor Pacheco is absent.
He'll be here.
Councilmember Hodge.
Here.
Councilmember Romero.
Here.
Councilmember Arriola Fernandez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, very good. And that actually was roll call. Will we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, I'll carry it out for you. Please put your right hand on your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Manager, you want to read the mission statement?
Sure. Together,
We pledge to provide effective and efficient services in a courteous and respectful manner to improve the quality of life for all in our unique border community. Viva Calexico.
Please be seated. Okay, is there a approval of the agenda?
I make an approval of the agenda.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Announcements. These proceedings may be viewed on the City of Calexico website, www.calexico.ca.gov, and the Friday following the City Council meeting. City Clerk, would you like to read the public comments and public appearances, please?
This is the time for the public to address the City Council on the special agenda items only. The mayor will recognize you when you come to the microphone. Please state your name and place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. The City Council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not included on the printed agenda. Please direct your questions and comments to the City Council.
Very good, thank you. Do we have any public comments for the special meeting? No? Okay, moving on. Yes, City Manager.
If it would please the council, I'd like to make a few comments regarding the news on the state controller's report.
Go right ahead, sir.
Okay. So we're all aware that last week, the state controller's report came out in public. We've, in the city staff level, have known that this will be coming for several months now. The controllers spent some time with us, about 3 months last year, going over some things. The things that came out in the report are not new. They're things that we, as the staff level, have known the issues that were in that report. And in fact, those items that were in the report have been talked about almost ad nauseum up here on the dais. So those are not new issues. It's not something that we're not aware of. The good news that came out of that report was that there were no new items, first of all, and that the fact that the state controllers left with basically nothing and said, have a good day, was good news in the fact that they sensed and they saw that city staff and the finance department had renovated itself. We now have a professional finance director, manager. We have people in finance that are doing their job, whereas before, in the years prior, 2013, 14, 15, there was some serious issues in the finance department. We acknowledge that. We understand. We know that. We are essentially still suffering from this overspending that occurred in 2014 and 15 to this day, we're paying back a wastewater loan that we took from the enterprise, and over $700,000 a year that we're paying back. That's money that we could be using for services for the people, but instead we're having to pay this loan back every year, and we have at least 1 or 2 more years left on paying that back. We're also paying $600,000 a year in back payments from JPIA. We don't even a member of JPIA. We're paying $600,000 starting this year and for the next year or 2, I think, $600,000 for the past sins, basically. So $600,000 and $700,000 is about $1.3 million that we could have been using for services or for more employees. But because of those times where the city thought that they had more money than they did, and that had to do with the finance department being in disarray, then that's the issue. $1.3 million a year that we're paying back because of those issues. But again, I want to emphasize, this is not new. This is not something that we were surprised about. We're aware of it, these issues. We're coming back. The amazing thing is that even with paying back this $1.3 million a year, we're still showing that we're in the black somehow. And with all the sacrifices that people are sitting in here and the other employees, and the fact that we're not hiring when we need to hire, we're not able to provide the services that we want to provide, that's the reason. We simply don't have the resources, and it's because of those years that the city overspent. Now, the news comes out and starts to make it seem like somebody absconded with $9 million. That's not the case. The fact is that the city overspent because they felt they had more money than what actually they did. So we are making those sacrifices, and I understand when people say, I pay my taxes, why aren't the parks being fixed the way we want it? Well, the fact is we just don't have the resources because we're paying back from past sins. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Very good, City Manager. Okay, moving right along. Discussion and potential action items. Number 1, the 2018-2019 second quarter budget status report and proposed budget amendment. And we have our illustrious finance director here, Carla Robaros. You're going to give the presentation? Okay, very good.
Good evening, everybody. I have here in front of you our 2018-19 General Fund second quarter report. And as Mr. Dell explained, our city manager, I would like to start off by acknowledging that we have the State Controller's Office here. Again, as Mr. Dell stated, they found no new news. So whatever they found is what we already knew that we're having. And that was past mistakes, and we're trying to fix it slowly but steady. We have implemented internal controls. We have more controls in place to avoid any mistakes that had happened in the past. So in my response to the State Controller's Office, I already stated that some controls have already been implemented, and our staff is working diligently to carry on these controls. So we also had, just a couple weeks ago, our auditors, the internal auditors, and then again, they did not find any problems. So everything is working out as it should be. Again, we had some problems in the past, but that's in the past, and we're moving forward. So with that in mind, we did have in 2017-18, we closed the year with a deficit of 3.8 million, which is amazing if you see the following slides as we're carrying on 2018-19. So for now, the objectives for the night is 2018-19 proposed mid-year budget adjustments. We're gonna have an overview of all funds expenditure summary, beginning fund balance as of June 30th of 2018, which is the ending of last fiscal year, and how we're doing as of the mid-year, a projection to the end of the year. 2018-19 revenue updates and 2018-19 expenditures. So our proposed mid-year adjustments, our beginning fund balance, a while back I had presented over to you a beginning fund balance of 259,528. We had some improvements, and as of today, we stand to close 17-18 with 367,000. Again, this is coming back from a deficit of $3 million. So at this point, we have a surplus, which will not be used to spend any more money, but to put as reserves, as it was stated by City Council when we were closing the year. So that's our new policy. We will start putting some money into our reserves. As of 17-18, we had a projection for this year to start with a deficit of $26,000. We have increased our revenues, and as of now, we have an increase of $508,000 to end our fiscal year with $482,000 of a surplus. Again, this money will be used to put as a reserve. It's not to be spent. For now, our goal is to put some money in reserves so that in case anything would happen, we have some reserves to drag from. So that's the adjustment. So now I'm gonna go into explaining a little bit of our general fund second quarter report on expenditures. As of the general fund, as of November, we had proposed a decrease of $138,000. We have some specialty revenue funds increase of $41,000, which is our mutual aid. On housing funds, we have no change. Debt service and capital funds, we're moving some money from general fund expenditures into impact fees. So we're planning on buying a console for police, and that will be coming out of the impact fees, not out of our general fund. Enterprise, internal service funds, and agency district funds will not show any changes as to what we had initially stated. So now, some of our changes on internal, on our revenues. Property tax, per our consultant, HDL, we will have an increase of $100,000, which is helping us a lot. As I had stated back in our first quarter report, HDL had mentioned that CDTFA, which is the property tax, their sales tax agency, had some problems in implementing their new software. So as a consequence, they did not pay sales tax on time, and they had not accounted for all the monies that they owe back to every city in the state. So from there, we have an extra $100,000. Again, our consultant HDL also gave us good news that on property tax transfer, which is the transfer of real estate, we will have an extra $15,000. Back in November, we had
Election?
on our election, we had increased our tax, transient occupancy tax. We were at 10%, we increased it to 12%, and that will give us an extra $21,000 for the rest of this fiscal year. On cannabis, we're expecting to have $400,000. Utility fund leases, we had expected to be at $360,000. It came out to be $300,000, so we're decreasing some of our revenues by $60,000. We had a traffic control grant, which we are not getting this year, so we will decrease our revenues by $125,000. Now, on ambulance fees, and this is a difficult subject, we had expected to increase our ambulance fees by $1 million on top of our $500,000 that we were getting last year. Those remain in place, but at this point, we're not receiving the revenues that we were expecting to see from the new ambulance fees. So at this point, I'm reducing that. We're still, Chief Famila and myself are working diligently on this. I had to put it on the side for a while since I was working on other projects, but I will be picking that up again probably the next week.
Director Lovatos, if you don't mind, or should we just wait questions till the end? I just wanted to talk to that specific subject. Is it because we're still negotiating
We're still
with the
negotiating
insurance care
the contracts.
providers
Correct.
to be able to up the
To up the
ambulance
fee.
services?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So, and again, on Measure H, this is strictly related to our sales tax that will be increased as well since sales tax increase. So that'll give us a net impact to our revenues of $524,000, which is great news since we were hurting for money. Now on expenditures, we have an increase on overtime, but that will be, and that's mutual aid reimbursement. That's when our fire employees go out and help other counties. So we had some increase on overtime, but then again, that will be reimbursed to the city. We have savings on contracts and professional services. This was decreased as well due to the ambulance fees. It's strictly correlated to the ambulance fees. So whatever the agency collects, they charge us at 12%. So since we're decreasing our revenues, we're also decreasing our expenses. And vacancy allowance, on top of the $220,000 that we had projected to save as of beginning of the fiscal year, we're trending to save $125,000 more. And I know every single department is hurting for people. We all are, but in holding the vacancies, we were able to save $125,000 more. So at this point, that brings us up to having a bigger surplus. And if we go to the next, I can't remember. That is extremely small, but you won't have that on your handout. And that is the general fund projection. So if we go through it, we start our 17-18 with a beginning working capital of a deficit of $363,000. We were able to come up with $730,000 as of operating results last fiscal year, which puts us in a surplus of $367,000 at the end of last fiscal year. We had an adopted budget which was estimating to have a deficit to start with of $26,000. We have been able to improve on that to take it to a working capital of $367,000 plus $115,000. That takes us up to $482,000 at the end of fiscal year 18-19, which would be June of 2019. So we're still paying our wastewater advance, but again, we are working diligently in keeping good control of our expenses. We're keeping track of every single budget. All of the managers, all of the department heads have been working very diligently in keeping track of their expenses. So this is a teamwork. It's not only the finance department. Every single department has been doing what they have to do. They've been controlling their expenses, keeping track of their overtime, keeping track of their employees, which shows, and again, we have a surplus, which we had not had for, I want to say, about 4 or 5 years, since 2013-14. So this is, again, this is amazing to see how we've turned the page around. And again, this is from City Council or City Manager, all the administration and all department heads that have been working diligently in getting this done. So
Not
now,
to mention the finance director.
thank you. So now I will open it up to you if you have any questions on any specific items.
Do you have a question?
Let me see.
I don't have a question. That was my question. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go
Councilman
ahead.
Hodge. I just wanted to, first and foremost, Director Lobatos, congratulate you and your entire staff for doing such an amazing job. I understand you barely came into your position in May of last year, if I'm not correct. And, you know, to have made these leaps and bounds and to finally be able to show a positive view on our finances, which is something that's always been overshadowed, especially here in our city. And I just want to congratulate you guys for doing that. And I know, you know, many things are still to come. I know many things are still getting reorganized. And that, you know, hopefully with the rest of the council members, we can continue on this path and, you know, maybe even see much higher numbers in the upcoming fiscal year. So for that, I congratulate you and your entire staff. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilwoman, any comments?
No, just
That's it? Well, I pretty much echo what Councilmember Romero has just said. It was a dismal debacle in the last few years, and a lot of us had our doubts. But at the same time, we worked hard and wanted to be optimistic about it, and we've all worked hard. And the staff has worked very hard and made lots of sacrifices, police and fire. So it is reassuring to see that we've turned the corner and we're now possibly creating surpluses and extra revenue. And so I commend everybody and the administration, Miguel Figueroa for his economic development and so forth. So thank you very much for your hard work and insight, and we will continue on the right path.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Is there a public comment?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kim.
Get the light.
I'll give you 3 minutes or a little more, and then I'll give you a 20-second warning.
First of all, congratulations on our budget. It looks like we balanced it, but it's not. Why? Because how many police officers we short? How many fire officers we short? Budget a couple years ago, they used to have the number of the employees to be higher than counting as a budget. We're gonna spend this much money because we need this much of the personnel. But we didn't hire. And now, we are not going to hire the personnel, which is about 19 officers and police, about 5 is short from the fire department. It's a sacrifice service for the community. Besides that, we have a commingled budget, charging the more water funds and other project funds. I'm not going to name it. You guys need to find it. I found the commingled funds. And the city gonna Calexico later on, they're gonna end up to pay back for that. So, and little increase of the revenue, that's all. And plus, you guys cut the pay cut from the fires and the police. That's it. I understand certain point, they had the room. But what we did for the our safety officer take the cut, what we did for that? Did we hire more personnel we needed? And nighttime shift only, only 2 police car patrol. It looks like you guys look into the we are last of the underserved in the community, especially safety areas. And I see it here. A couple years ago, 2015, changed the insurance. City of Calexico, we only paid $500,000 for the insurance. Now, we're paying $2.6 million because we give up to our right to fight, and we have a more penalty for that. So all those, I understanding the current staff was not there at that time, but still, our current staff, city council member needs to focusing to increase the revenue and increase, especially we are very dangerous and safety of the citizens. Even my stores got broken the last Friday morning, and I heard a lot of stores are breaking in, the case because they don't see the patrols. We only have 2 patrols in the night. And I believe our city's activities, it should have more. Our city is supposed to have around over 50 police officers, like 60 police officers. If we using same ratio
20
as
seconds,
the San
Mr.
Diego.
Kim.
So, as council member's job is not applauding, just cheerleading. I don't need it. Community doesn't need to see the cheerleaders. Community needs to see the council member do their job, just like what's called the controller's office. The report saying is lack of supervising, which is council member Mr. Hachi was there at that time, and you guys shut me down.
Time is up, Mr. Kim.
You don't like it.
Thank you. You had more than 3 minutes. Any other? Okay. Any other insights or points to be made about the budget? Okay, let's move on.
We need a motion.
I'm sorry?
We need a motion.
That's right. Is there a motion to approve this midterm budget?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, very good. It passes. Now on to the next and last item, agenda item number 2. Approval of the recognized obligation payment schedule 1920A and B of the successor agency to the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Calexico for the period of July 2019 through June 2020. Any backstory here you want to give?
I would just like to point out that this report, this is our successor agency reporting that we bring out to the county. Historically, this report has always been submitted to our city council after it's presented to the county, which is not the way it should be. It should always come to you first and then go to the county. So there was a little bit of a rush, but I got it done in time, and we want to present it to you before it goes to the county. The county meeting will be held on Wednesday, January 30th at 2 o'clock. And this is for approval of the reimbursement for successor agency to the city of Calexico.
Okay. Do we have any questions, council?
I don't.
Okay. Here comes our mayor. Do you have any questions or insights on item number 2? Okay. Well, is there approval for this item, item number 2?
Motion for approval.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. The motion of approval passes. Thank you very much. I'll hand it over to you. It's the end there, Mr. Mayor.
Anything for
The good of the order.
any announcements anybody wants to make?
I'll make an announcement, Mr. Mayor. As of you know, as City Manager mentioned earlier, the report made public by the State Controller last week kind of shook everybody here in Calexico a little bit, and I found it very unfortunate to see certain medias try to pin it as if it was something that was being done at the moment. I found it very unprofessional because many people here at City Hall, from employees to administration, have taken deep cuts both in their wages, in their time, in their benefits, and they have done a lot of sacrificing over the last 2 years. I've seen current and former council members try to do the right thing by fixing everything and working with the little bit that they had. And to be where we're at now to where we were at 2 years ago is just amazing, and I would really appreciate it to all local and regional medias to try to focus a little more on how we're trying to move forward here in our city. Our fire chief, our police chief, everybody's putting in their grain of salt, and I think as citizens we should do that as well, to where we try to lift ourselves up and not just push each other down. I think a huge change is coming for Calexico. Council members are currently working on trying to do the right thing and look out for everybody. That includes everybody sitting here and the rest of Calexico watching online as well. And I believe we're going in a forward progressive way. So by all means, if you guys ever want to actually do an interview on something positive, come to us. That's what we're here for, and we keep looking forward to working with everybody out there. So
Very good
Thank you,
points,
guys.
Mr. Councilman.
Anybody else?
I'd like to echo that, yes, these occurrences did happen 2.5, 3 years ago, And yes, we did receive the report, and we are making headway. We are cleaning up our business departments, and we are cleaning up the housing and HUD, and we are trying to get things done correctly by having notices and bids, and make sure that the contracts, and make sure that when we do changeover, everything is brought to council. A lot of these things were not brought to council back in the day, so we're not gonna, it is what it is, and now we're at a better place. And even though it did make the papers, it was just something that we're working on, and we're making huge strides, I think. Where we were at one time, 3.5 in the whole million. And again, we always come up short when we meet our budget and introduce our beginning balances, and they're not where they should be. But I think we're on the right track, and thanks to the leadership of the new business department, our leaders, the staff entirely is really coming around and working. Though it's limited, we're doing the best we can. We're doing a great job, I think. Well, if there's no other comments, I think we'll adjourn on that, and thank you for coming, and we'll close the session. Thank you, Ms. Lovatos.